The scent of antiseptic hung heavy in the air, a constant, suffocating reminder of the sterile world that had become Chang-wook's reality. He sat beside his daughter's bed, the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor a morbid lullaby. Little Hannah, his bright, vibrant Hannah, lay pale and still, lost in a battle her tiny body seemed destined to lose. The doctors, with their grave faces and hushed pronouncements, had given up hope. "There's nothing more we can do," Dr. Lee had said, his voice laced with a pity that felt like a punch to the gut. "We can only keep her comfortable." Comfortable. The word echoed in Chang-wook's mind, a cruel mockery. How could anyone be comfortable when life was slipping away? He reached out and gently stroked Hannah's hair, the soft strands feeling brittle beneath his fingertips. He remembered her laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she chased butterflies in the garden, the endless questions she peppered him with about the world. Now, those eyes were closed, her breathing shallow and labored. Outside, the garden, usually a sanctuary, seemed to mock his despair. The roses bloomed in vibrant hues. The sunflowers stood tall and proud, reaching for the sun. It was a testament to the tireless efforts of Mr. Kim, the gardener, a quiet, unassuming man who seemed to understand the language of plants. Chang-wook had barely acknowledged him lately, lost in his grief, but he remembered Mr. Kim's kind eyes and gentle smile. One afternoon, as Chang-wook sat lost in thought, Mr. Kim approached him, his hands calloused and stained with earth. "Mr. G," he said softly, his voice barely a whisper, "I've been thinking about Hannah." Chang-wook looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "There's nothing anyone can do, Mr. Kim. The doctors." He trailed off, unable to voice the unbearable truth. Mr. Kim nodded slowly. "The doctors know medicine, Mr. G. But sometimes, healing comes from other places." He paused, then continued, "I have an idea. It may sound foolish, but I believe it could help." Chang-wook looked at the gardener, a flicker of hope igniting within him. He had nothing to lose. "What is it, Mr. Kim?" The gardener smiled, a knowing glint in his eye. "I'm going to build something for Hannah. Something that will bring the garden to her." "Bring the garden to her?" Chang-wook echoed, confused. He looked out at the vibrant expanse, a stark contrast to the sterile room where his daughter lay. How could Mr. Kim possibly condense that life, that energy, into something Hannah could experience in her weakened state? Mr. Kim simply nodded, his eyes holding a quiet conviction. "Trust me, Mr. G. Just trust me." And Chang-wook, desperate for any glimmer of hope, any alternative to the crushing despair, found himself nodding in agreement. "Okay, Mr. Kim. I trust you." The next few days were a blur. Chang-wook remained by Hannah's side, his vigil unbroken, while Mr. Kim worked tirelessly in the garden. He saw the gardener hauling wood, carefully selecting plants, and humming softly to himself as he worked. He didn't ask questions, didn't interfere. He simply watched, a fragile seed of hope taking root in the barren landscape of his grief. Dr. Lee, making his rounds, raised an eyebrow at the activity. "What's going on out there, Mr. G?" he asked, his tone a mixture of curiosity and concern. Chang-wook shrugged. "Mr. Kim is building something for Hannah." The doctor sighed, a weary sound. "Mr. G, I understand your desperation, but—" He trailed off, unwilling to crush Chang-wook's fragile hope. "Let him, doctor." Chang-wook interrupted, his voice firm. "It can't hurt, can it?" Dr. Lee shook his head, a resigned look on his face. "No, I suppose not." He patted Chang-wook's shoulder sympathetically and moved on. Finally, after days of relentless work, Mr. Kim approached Chang-wook, a triumphant gleam in his eyes. "It's ready, Mr. G," he announced. "I'm ready to bring the garden to Hannah." Chang-wook followed Mr. Kim outside, his heart pounding with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. He rounded the corner of the house and gasped. Mr. Kim had built a miniature greenhouse, perfectly scaled to fit inside Hannah's room. It was constructed of lightweight wood and clear glass, allowing sunlight to stream in. Inside, he had created a miniature ecosystem, a vibrant tapestry of colors and textures. Tiny roses bloomed alongside miniature sunflowers, their faces turned towards the light. Small, fragrant herbs filled the air with their sweet scent. A tiny waterfall trickled down a moss-covered rock, creating a soothing melody. It was breathtaking. Tears welled up in Chang-wook's eyes. He turned to Mr. Kim, his voice choked with emotion. It's beautiful, Mr. Kim. Thank you. Mr. Kim smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. The real beauty is yet to come, Mr. G. Let's bring it to Hannah. Together, they carefully carried the miniature greenhouse inside and placed it beside Hannah's bed. The room, previously sterile and lifeless, was instantly transformed. The air was filled with the scent of flowers and earth, the soft sound of the waterfall creating a sense of tranquility. Chang-wook watched Hannah, his breath held captive in his chest. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, Hannah's eyelids fluttered. She opened her eyes, her gaze unfocused at first. But then, her eyes widened, and a faint smile touched her lips. Flowers, she whispered, her voice weak but clear. Daddy, flowers. Chang-wook's heart soared. He reached out and gently took Hannah's hand, his tears flowing freely now. Yes, sweetheart. Flowers. He watched as Hannah's gaze roamed over the miniature garden, her eyes filled with wonder. She reached out a frail hand and gently touched a rose petal, her fingers tracing its delicate curve. A look of peace settled over her face, a serenity he hadn't seen in weeks. That night, for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Hannah slept peacefully. Chang-wook stayed by her side, watching her breathe, listening to the gentle sound of the waterfall. He felt a sense of calm he hadn't thought possible. The next morning, Dr. Lee came to check on Hannah. He entered the room, his face etched with weariness, expecting to see the same grim scene he had witnessed every day for weeks. But what he saw stopped him in his tracks. Hannah was sitting up in bed, her eyes bright and alert. She was laughing, a weak but genuine laugh, as she watched a tiny ladybug crawl across a sunflower. Dr. Lee stared, speechless. He checked Hannah's vitals, his brow furrowed in disbelief. Her heart rate was stronger, her breathing more regular. It was as if a miracle had occurred. What happened? He stammered, turning to Chang-wook. Chang-wook smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. Mr. Kim brought the garden to her, Doctor. Dr. Lee looked at the miniature greenhouse, his eyes filled with a mixture of awe and confusion. He shook his head slowly. I don't understand it, he admitted. But she's better. Significantly better. Over the next few days, Hannah continued to improve. She spent hours in the garden, touching the plants, watching the insects, and listening to the sound of the waterfall. She started eating again, slowly at first, but with increasing appetite. Her color returned, her eyes regained their sparkle, and her laughter filled the room once more. The doctors were baffled. They ran tests, consulted with specialists, and pored over her medical records, searching for a logical explanation. But they found none. All they could conclude was that something extraordinary had happened. Chang-wook knew what had happened. He had witnessed it with his own eyes. Mr. Kim had not just built a garden, he had created a sanctuary, a place of healing and hope. He had tapped into something deeper, something beyond the realm of medicine, something that had awakened Hannah's spirit and given her the will to live. One sunny afternoon, as Hannah was playing in the garden, Chang-wook found Mr. Kim tending to the roses outside. He approached the gardener, his heart filled with gratitude. Mr. Kim, he said, his voice thick with emotion, I don't know how to thank you. You saved my daughter's life. Mr. Kim looked up, his eyes filled with warmth. I only planted the seeds, Mr. G, he said softly. Hannah did the rest. He paused, then added, sometimes the greatest healing comes from the simplest things. From the beauty of nature, the power of hope, and the love of family. Chang-wook nodded, his heart overflowing with gratitude. He knew that Mr. Kim was right. The doctors had given up, but the gardener had given them hope. And in that hope, a miracle had bloomed. Chang-wook spent the following weeks learning from Mr. Kim. He wanted to understand the secrets hidden within the earth, the subtle language of flowers, the way sunlight could coax life from a dormant seed. He helped Mr. Kim tend to the garden outside Hannah's window, feeling a connection to the earth he'd never known before. He learned the names of the plants, their needs, and even, it seemed, their personalities. Hannah, meanwhile, continued to thrive. The miniature greenhouse remained her sanctuary, but her world was expanding. She began to venture outside, her hand firmly clasped in her father's, exploring the larger garden with wide, curious eyes. She chased butterflies, giggled at the antics of squirrels, and delighted in the feel of grass beneath her bare feet. Dr. Lee continued to monitor Hannah, his scientific mind struggling to reconcile the inexplicable with the undeniable. He ran more tests, consulted with more specialists, even brought in a psychiatrist to assess Hannah's emotional state. The psychiatrist, after spending hours observing Hannah in the garden, simply shrugged and said, "She's found her joy. Sometimes, that's the best medicine." One afternoon, Dr. Lee approached Chang-wook, a hesitant expression on his face. "Mr. G," he began, "I have to admit, I don't understand what happened. Medically, there's no explanation for Hannah's recovery. But I've learned something. We, as doctors, often focus so much on the science, on the data, that we forget the human element. We forget the power of hope, the importance of connection, the simple beauty of the world around us." He paused, then extended his hand. "Thank you, Mr. G, for showing me that there are other ways to heal." Chang-wook shook Dr. Lee's hand, a sense of understanding passing between them. He knew that medicine had its place, but he also knew that it wasn't the only path to healing. Sometimes all it took was a little bit of magic, a little bit of hope, and a whole lot of love. As Hannah grew stronger, she began to ask questions about her illness. Chang-wook, with Mr. Kim's guidance, explained it to her in simple terms, focusing on the positive, on the healing power of the garden. He told her that the flowers were her friends, that the sunlight was her medicine, and that the love of her family was her shield. One evening, as they sat together in the garden, Hannah looked up at her father, her eyes filled with a newfound wisdom. "Daddy," she said, "I don't want to be sick anymore. I want to help other children who are sick." Chang-wook's heart swelled with pride. He knew that Hannah's experience had changed her, had given her a purpose, a desire to make a difference in the world. And so, together, they decided to share Hannah's garden with other children in the hospital. They created a miniature version of her greenhouse, filled with colorful flowers and soothing sounds, and placed it in the children's ward. They invited other children to come and visit, to touch the plants, to listen to the waterfall, to find their own little piece of magic. The results were astonishing. Children who had been withdrawn and listless began to smile, to laugh, to interact with others. Their vital signs improved, their pain lessened, and their spirits lifted. The doctors were amazed, the nurses were inspired, and the parents were filled with hope. Hannah became a beacon of light for the other children, a symbol of resilience and healing. She spent hours in the children's ward, sharing her stories, her laughter, and her love. She taught them about the flowers, the insects, and the power of nature. She showed them that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope to be found. Mr. Kim, meanwhile, continued to tend to the gardens, both inside and outside the hospital. He taught the children about gardening, about the importance of nurturing life, and about the connection between humans and nature. He became a beloved figure in the hospital, a silent guardian of hope and healing. Years passed, and Hannah grew into a healthy, vibrant young woman. She never forgot her experience, and she dedicated her life to helping others. She became a doctor, inspired by Dr. Lee's humility and Mr. Kim's wisdom. She specialized in pediatric oncology, determined to bring the power of nature and the healing touch of love to children battling cancer. Chang-wook, filled with pride and gratitude, watched his daughter blossom. He knew that her journey had been difficult, but he also knew that it had made her stronger, more compassionate, and more determined to make a difference in the world. And so, the story of Ji Chang-wook's daughter became a legend, a testament to the power of hope, the beauty of nature, and the healing touch of love. It was a story that was told and retold, inspiring generations of doctors, nurses, patients, and families to believe in the impossible, to never give up hope, and to always remember the magic that lies within the simplest of things. The gardener, the unlikely architect of a miracle, had planted a seed that blossomed into a forest of hope, forever changing the landscape of healing. The legacy of Hannah's garden spread beyond the hospital walls. News of the miracle garden, as it became known, reached other medical facilities. Doctors and horticulturalists, initially skeptical, began to visit, drawn by the undeniable positive effects on the children. Mr. Kim, ever humble, simply showed them the delicate balance of sunlight, soil, and water, emphasizing the importance of creating a space where life could flourish. He spoke little, but his hands, weathered and wise, told a story of connection to the earth, a story of nurturing and patience. Chang-wook found himself giving talks, sharing their experience, not as a medical expert, but as a father. He spoke of the despair he had felt, the helplessness, and the unexpected hope that bloomed from Mr. Kim's creation. He emphasized the importance of treating the whole person, not just the illness, and of the profound impact of environment on healing. "We focus so much on fighting the disease," he would say, his voice thick with emotion, "that we forgot to nurture the spirit." Mr. Kim reminded us that even in the face of death, there is life. There is beauty, there is hope. Hannah, during her medical studies, championed the integration of horticultural therapy into pediatric care. She researched the scientific basis for the garden's effects, exploring the ways in which nature could reduce stress hormones, boost the immune system, and promote emotional well-being. She became a passionate advocate, presenting her findings at medical conferences and publishing articles in scientific journals. One day, a renowned architectural firm approached Hannah with a proposal to design a series of healing gardens for hospitals around the world, based on the principles of Hannah's garden. They wanted her to be a consultant, ensuring that the gardens were not just aesthetically pleasing, but truly therapeutic. Hannah accepted, eager to extend the healing power of nature to children everywhere. She worked closely with the architects, incorporating elements of her original garden: the gentle waterfall, the vibrant flowers, the fragrant herbs, the peaceful pathways. She also emphasized the importance of community involvement, encouraging local residents to volunteer in the gardens and share their knowledge of plants and gardening. Mr. Kim, though content with his quiet life, found himself traveling with Hannah to some of the garden sites. He offered his expertise on soil composition, plant selection, and the subtle art of creating a harmonious environment. He became a mentor to young gardeners, sharing his wisdom and his love of the earth. At one hospital in a war-torn country, Hannah and Mr. Kim faced a particularly challenging situation. The hospital was overcrowded, understaffed, and lacked even the most basic resources. The children were traumatized, malnourished, and desperately ill. Creating a healing garden seemed almost impossible. But Hannah and Mr. Kim refused to give up. They worked with the local community, clearing rubble, planting seeds, and building a small oasis of green amidst the devastation. They taught the children how to care for the plants, how to nurture life in the midst of death. Slowly, miraculously, the garden began to transform the hospital. The children's spirits lifted, their laughter echoed through the corridors, and their bodies began to heal. The doctors and nurses, inspired by the garden's impact, found renewed energy and hope. One evening, as Hannah and Mr. Kim sat together in the garden, watching the children play, Hannah turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Mr. Kim," she said, "you've shown me that even in the darkest of places, hope can bloom. You've taught me that healing is not just about medicine, it's about connection, about community, about love." Mr. Kim smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "The earth," he said softly, "has a way of healing. We just need to listen." Years later, Hannah stood in the garden of a new children's hospital, a state-of-the-art facility dedicated to holistic healing. The garden was magnificent, a testament to the power of nature and the enduring legacy of a simple gardener. As she looked around, she saw children laughing, playing, and exploring the wonders of the natural world. She saw doctors and nurses interacting with patients in a relaxed and supportive environment. She saw parents finding solace and hope in the beauty of the garden. And she knew that her father and Mr. Kim would be proud. Their legacy lived on, not just in the gardens they had created, but in the hearts of all those who had been touched by their story. The miracle they had witnessed was not just a medical anomaly, but a testament to the extraordinary power of human connection, the healing beauty of nature, and the unwavering hope that can bloom even in the most barren of landscapes. The seed planted long ago had indeed blossomed into a forest of hope, a forest that continued to grow and flourish, bringing healing and joy to children around the world. Chang-wook stood at the edge of that same garden, now a sprawling landscape of vibrant life surrounding the hospital where Hannah had dedicated her life. He ran a hand along the smooth, cool stone of the waterfall, the familiar sound of balm to his soul. Years had passed, etching lines on his face, but the memory of Hannah's fragile hand in his, the despair in Dr. Lee's eyes, and the quiet certainty in Mr. Kim's remained vivid. He saw her everywhere. In the faces of the children giggling as they chased butterflies, in the gentle sway of the lavender bushes, even in the determined set of a young doctor's shoulders as she explained a procedure to anxious parents. Hannah's spirit permeated the very air he breathed. A hand touched his arm. It was Dr. Lee, older now, his hair silvered, but his eyes still held a spark of the skepticism that had once defined him. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said, his voice softened by time and experience. Chang-wook nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. "I remember when Mr. Kim started building this," Dr. Lee continued, his gaze sweeping over the garden. "We all thought he was, well, a little mad. I certainly did. I was so focused on the science, on the statistics, that I couldn't see the something else he was offering." He paused, took a deep breath. "I was wrong, Chang-wook. Terribly wrong. I've seen things here, things I can't explain. Children who should have succumbed, thriving. Parents who should have been broken, finding strength. This garden, it's more than just plants and flowers. It's a testament to the power of hope, the resilience of the human spirit, and the unexpected ways in which healing can manifest." Chang-wook turned to him, his eyes filled with unshed tears. "Hannah always said that Mr. Kim understood something we didn't." Dr. Lee nodded again. "He did. And she did too. She took his wisdom and turned it into something extraordinary. She changed the way we think about medicine, about healing, about life itself." A group of children approached, their faces lit with excitement. "Mr. G. Mr. G," they cried, pulling at his hands. "Hannah's roses are blooming. Come see." He smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that reached his eyes. He allowed himself to be led by the children, their small hands warm and trusting in his. As he walked, he noticed a small plaque nestled among the rose bushes. It bore a simple inscription: "In memory of Mr. Kim, who taught us to listen to the earth." He knelt down, tracing the inscription with his finger. He could almost hear Mr. Kim's quiet voice, his gentle laughter. He felt a profound sense of peace, a sense of gratitude for the unlikely miracle that had saved his daughter and for the legacy of hope that she had left behind. Later that day, as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the garden, Chang-wook sat on a bench beneath a sprawling oak tree. He watched as a young girl, her head shaved from chemotherapy, carefully watered a small patch of sunflowers. Her mother sat beside her, her hand resting protectively on her daughter's shoulder. Chang-wook closed his eyes, remembering the fear, the despair, the utter helplessness he had felt when Hannah was sick. He remembered the moment when Dr. Lee had told him there was nothing more they could do. He remembered the quiet, unwavering hope in Mr. Kim's eyes. He realized then that the miracle wasn't just about Hannah's survival. It was about the transformation that had occurred within him, within Dr. Lee, within the entire community. It was about the realization that healing is not just a physical process, but a holistic one, encompassing the body, the mind, and the spirit. He thought of Hannah, her unwavering determination, her boundless compassion. He knew that she would be proud of the gardens, of the children who were finding solace and healing within them, of the doctors and nurses who were embracing a more holistic approach to medicine. And he knew that her legacy would continue to inspire generations to come. The seed that Mr. Kim had planted, the seed of hope, of connection, of love, had blossomed into a forest of healing, a forest that would continue to grow and flourish, bringing light and joy to the world. As the stars began to appear in the twilight sky, Chang-wook whispered a prayer of thanks, a prayer for Hannah, for Mr. Kim, for the miracle that had changed their lives forever. He knew that even in the face of darkness, there is always hope. And that hope, like a tiny seed, can blossom into something extraordinary, something beautiful, something that can heal the world. The garden, Hannah's garden, was proof of that. It was a living testament to the power of the human spirit, the healing beauty of nature, and the enduring legacy of love. His daughter's legacy. And in that legacy, he found peace. He found purpose. He found life. His daughter, though no longer physically present, lived on in every bloom, every leaf, every whispered prayer within the sanctuary she had inspired. His heart, once heavy with grief, now overflowed with gratitude and a profound sense of hope for the future. The miracle had not only saved his daughter, but had also saved him. It had shown him the true meaning of life, the true meaning of healing, and the true power of love.